Okay, so in this video I just want to go over a couple examples from the homework, just to sort of show you the idea of transforming a gerund phrase into a gerundive phrase, or the gerund-gerundive flip. So I'm going to take a look at this one first. So, amor pecuniam petendi malus est. So the first step in understanding this is just getting an idea of what the gerund phrase is doing. So the overall idea of this is amor petendi, so the love of seeking. This is just a gerund, normal gerund in the genitive singular case. So all gerunds just look like neuter nouns, except they don't occur in the plural. They just have these four forms. The singular form is often taken over by the infinitive. So petera would be the nominative version of this, but whenever they are used in the so-called oblique cases, which essentially just means not nominative, they may still take the function of whatever a verb does. So by definition then, a gerund is quite similar to an infinitive, but it occurs in these oblique cases. So now let's take a look how we might understand this. So petendi then is the genitive singular, and peto, which means to seek, also takes a direct object in the accusative case. So here is our object, sandwiched between the two, pecuniam, so the love of seeking money. So now for transforming this into a gerundive phrase, we have to think through a couple things. What is the gender and number of the original direct object, and what is the original case of the gerund? So the gender and number of noun and case of gerund. So the case of the gerund is genitive singular, and the gender and number is feminine and singular. So now we need, in order to turn this into a gerundive phrase, we just need to take the nounness of the direct object, the things that make it particular about this noun, which is the fact that it is feminine and it is singular, and then we need to essentially combine that with our gerund, which we're converting to a gerundive, which is by definition essentially an adjective, a verbal adjective, similar to our other participles. So to do this, we just turn the gender, we take the case, the original case of our gerund, and match it with the gender and the number of the original noun. So in that case, it turns into pecunii, because that takes the original genitive singular, but it retains its feminine gender. But then we also need to add our, but then we need to retain our case, which is genitive for this, but we also add the gender of the noun, which is genitive. So now we have our essentially gerundive phrase, which is the equivalent of this, the love of seeking money, or literally the love of money, to be sought. But this is essentially equivalent to love of seeking money. So here is the basic understanding of this and how to go through it. on your own. All right, so let's take a look at a bit longer of an example with a different sort of construction. So to start off with, we'll just take a look at what our main clause is. So we have a main verb here, a finite verb. So I'm just going to mark it with a V there. Then we also have our subject here, lupi, the nominative plural of lupus, wolves. And our perfect indicative active here of venio, third plural, just to give you a sense of the parsing. And then the prepositional phrase here, out of the forest. So it's explaining what the wolves did. They came out of the forest. And then we have our ad porcos miseros interficiendum. So notice that we have a preposition ad here, which always takes the accusative case. But it's also important to note that often the prepositions don't necessarily have to be directly adjacent to their referent. In this case, ad is actually going with interficiendum. This should be fairly familiar. The ad quite often occurs with the accusative with the gerund and the gerundive in order to show purpose. So the idea then is for the purpose of, and then verbing is essentially the abstracted meaning of it, for the purpose of whatever the meaning of interficiendum is and our object. So interficiendum is the gerund singular of interficio, which just means to kill. So for the purpose of killing wretched pigs. So now, in order to change this from a gerundive, or from a gerund into a gerundive, we just have to do the similar set of steps we had above. We have to transform our original gerund, which takes an object, into an adjective, which modifies these original nouns. But we need to retain the case of the gerund. So you retain the case of gerund, but you match it with the gender and number of the noun. So the gender and number of the noun then of porcos miseros is masculine and also plural. And the case of the gerund is also the same. It's just accusative. So they're both accusative plural. Now, in order to do this, we just need to take those two pieces and add them together. So to do this, we don't have to, in this case, we don't have to change porcos and miseros to a different case, since it's still accusative, but we do have to turn interficiendum into its gerundive adjective form. So instead of retaining this neuter singular ending up here, we just give it the accusative plural ending here, which is os. So, and we leave our preposition here. So for the purpose of wretched pigs to be killed, or the wolves came out of the forest in order to, or for the purpose of killing wretched pigs. All right, thank you.